Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Monique Walton, and I am here with the wonderful Alex Sachs, who produced the Glorias. This, she has, I won't read your bio, Alex, but I do want to say
Thank
you've
you.
also produced, really, you have, an amazing, repertoire of films, including Thoroughbreds, Fun Mom Dinner, The Florida Project, Wildlife, Dude, most recently Chemical Hearts, and of course this amazing film, The Glorias, which was just so epic, so expansive, so ambitious. So as I was watching, I was just trying to kind of keep my mind in the producing because I knew I had to do this Q&A with you. And it's just like, everything just kind of overwhelmed me as far as how this film may have come together. And also just, how incredibly timely it is too, just in terms of where we are right now. And,
Yeah.
I was just like really inspired. Like there was just a lot that I haven't thought about how much I take for granted, like I haven't thought about the prefix of Ms., and how that was always a thing. And, how there were certain rights that you didn't have as a married woman, that I just completely just don't ever think about. So it was, just so revealing in so many ways and so important. And there's a lot to discuss. So we can just jump right in. The first question is, how did this project come to you and in what stage? And yeah.
So it came to me sort of by happenstance, actually. And very, very early on in the process. So I was having a general meeting with a theater agent in New York because I work with a lot of playwrights, both as directors and as pure writers, and so I'm always looking for the new voices. And so I had this meeting at WME, and at the very tail end of the meeting, after I'd been pitched all these cool up and coming playwrights, he said, would you ever, I mean, what he really said was, would you be too scared to meet Julie Taymor? But that feels somewhat offensive. And so all my response was like, I don't think so. No. Why? And he said, well, she has the rights to Gloria Steinem's latest memoir, and this was September of 2016. And so I said, oh, the book that's sitting on my nightstand that I've not read yet, but I'm dying to. And I've been a fan of Gloria's for as long as I could remember, but didn't know her nearly as well as I, know her in her life now. So basically, it was really quick. He said, look, she has the rights. They're looking for a financier. My company was financing at the time. They needed development money. And then they also needed, and you saw this if you saw the film, although there's only a very, very little bit in there, but what they really needed was some money to send a documentary crew on the campaign trail with Gloria and Hillary.
Oh, wow.
And so we did that, and we have a ton of footage from the campaign trail and then from the night of the election at Samantha Power's apartment. And the only thing that really ended up in the movie, because of the outcome of the election, is the Women's March, which we also filmed. So that was really, literally, we had money in a bank account about 2 weeks after I sat with that agent. We got the book rights, honestly, kind of months later. We started, we made our deal with our writer and so on and so forth. So things really got moving, in terms of the movie, probably several months later from that, September, October period. And then that was it. Julianne Moore was attached technically, but that was it. And then, we had a draft of the script come in. Julie co-wrote it. So it was really at that point the most hands-on I'd ever been in the development process as well. Myself and Lynn Hendy, who's Julie's longstanding producing partner, I spent about 6 weeks commuting back and forth to New York from LA to sit in Julie's studio and beat out the whole movie. Which moments from her life in the book did we want? Which which stories had she told us that we wanted to make sure were in there too. And so, and then what through line, and I mean, it's again, if you watched it, I'm sure you can understand, how much was sort of jammed in there, but and frankly, if you read the book, how much we also left out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious about that. Yeah, how long it took to kind of adapt something like that spans so much time. And yeah.
From when I got involved to when we had like a script ready for financiers, I would say it actually wasn't that long, shockingly. It felt long. Less than 18 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We started shopping the script and Julianne's attachment, and then very shortly thereafter, Alicia Vikander and Bette Midler joined us. And we went out with that package in the summer of 2018. Summer of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how much would you say of the film like remains true to the book? And was there like a lot of artistic license taken, or was it really just kind of, because I haven't read the book. So.
Yeah. So the emotional truth is the exact same. There's some license taken, but honestly, it's pretty, the stuff that isn't accurate is the fact that like the house in Toledo was technically like on a highway. Like the highway was right there and we have it like in a neighborhood. So, but other than that, everything else was really, really quite accurate. And part of that is because we had full and complete access to Gloria throughout the entire process, still do. I mean, Julie speaks to her and Lynn more than I do, but over email, on phone calls, daily. So she really, it was easy to make it authentic.
Yeah. No, I felt that just from, I also, listened to a few interviews with Gloria as well. And I was like, oh yeah, some of these stories that she's telling are like really just like painted.
And she, from the very, very get-go, her and Julie have been friends for a long time, just like female New York circles. She implicitly trusted Julie. She had no creative approvals, no nothing.
Oh, wow.
Completely trusted Julie. Which was a really cool process to watch, just to watch that level of trust in execution. It's, we over lawyer contracts and, we all have to protect ourselves, understandably, a lot of times. And to watch that happen, man, it just worked so much better than people, throwing around terms like, I have meaningful consultation, I have mutual approval. It was a real collaboration. And I think a lot of times that's, that needs to be absent of legalese, but you don't always have those relationships.
Yeah, totally. So once you had, you said you had Julianne Moore and then you had Alicia. How long, what was the, financing process like? How long did it take to come together?
It was it was impossible, basically. Not many people wanted to finance a Julie Taymor movie. A lot of people were scared. Even when they did want to finance it, they wanted to finance it for a number that and I make low budget movies. I make a lot of low budget movies. And there was just no way that we could have done it for $7 million. Gloria, in all of her, brilliance, glory, actually got the movie financed for us. A charitable organization that we've not mentioned publicly because they don't want to finance any more movies and never really did, but they did it for Gloria. Financed the movie, basically, very, very wealthy billionaire-esque family and foundation stepped up and let us go make, the movie that Julie wanted to make, but otherwise it never would have gotten made.
Wow, that's incredible. And it just goes to show how important she
I
is.
mean, it's actually really interesting. Working with her has the first time that I've had true access to that level of power and powerful people. The fact that she can pick up the phone and call Meghan Markle or Michelle Obama or send an email to the CEO of Discovery Networks, who then gets Oprah to watch the movie within 48 hours. Like, just like, wow, like this is like anybody she calls, emails. It really helps to get things done
Yeah.
efficiently.
Yeah.
But she's amazing, and it was really a kind of a cool thing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. So I guess we could move on to, so you get this amazing kind of financing.
Literally like a gift from God.
A gift from God. Gift from God comes in. We'll never know who it is.
Nope.
And so how, I mean, I guess just going into production, which is, the scope of this film is, massive.
So
So how did
Julie
you?
had her department heads
Okay.
basically before the script was even finished. She'd worked with Rodrigo Prieto before. She'd worked with Sandy Powell before. Mark Friedberg was her longtime production designer, but he was doing the Joker when we were shooting. So he gave us his art director, Kim Jennings, who was phenomenal and has done everything from Spielberg movies to every other huge Oscar nominated movie you can imagine. And they were sort of all ready and waiting, and like had already started researching, already spoken to Gloria. Kim had probably done the most work. Like we had an entire visual lookbook and the whole thing. So we really hit the ground running, and we had I had already had a couple budgets done. We sort of knew what world we were playing in. We had a VFX vendor. So like by the time the money landed, we were already behind, basically.
Right.
So we just, we got down to Savannah, we did our scout, came back to LA and New York. Everybody packed up because we needed to make sure that we could pull it off there. And we could. So then a couple weeks later, we all came back and we prepped October, November, December, and then like teched and production meeting to the beginning of January after the holiday, and then shot for almost 3 months.
3 months. Wow. And so how many locations did you have?
We had in Savannah between 60 and 70 locations.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you also shot in India.
We did.
So
India, which yes, was challenging in its obviousness, but we actually, Lynn and Julie had worked in India before, and there is a very well-known, there was like one production services company that did like Slumdog and does like all of the American movies that go there. They were very close with those producers. So luckily, we basically gave them a number and put them in touch. Kim started talking to them and some things here and there, but basically like we show, it wasn't without work and chasing and all of that fun stuff, but compared to everything else, we kind of showed up and they were ready for us to shoot. They'd scouted and sent photos, and I actually didn't go to India because our budget was, even though we had this angel investor, it was still really tight. So Julie went, our cinematographer, our DP, and that was really it. Sandy Powell didn't go.
Wow.
We just worked with locals.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And how long, where in that process did that happen? Did that happen kind of like in the beginning or in the end, or was it all?
It happened right after we wrapped in Savannah. Everybody left from Savannah to go to India. I mean, there wasn't that many people, but yeah.
Right. Okay. And then so you were also talking about how you had sets as well, like how much of the film
so we
had
had
locations and how much was it sets?
So we had 60 to 70 locations and 160 plus sets within all of those locations. It was a lot.
Yeah, I don't even understand what that means. I mean, I know like in terms
I
of
mean,
the
look, it's,
logistics,
it's the movie spans 80 years, and takes place in 4 countries and various states, like many, New York, California, Vegas, the Badlands, Oklahoma. I mean, so everything had to be distinct. San Francisco, and but we somehow managed to do all of it except for a little bit in New York and then India in Savannah, Georgia.
wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Wait, so you did, but you did do London, or you didn't? You
We
didn't.
didn't. That was Savannah.
That was Savannah. Wow.
I know. It's pretty, Savannah's pretty incredible in terms of
Yeah.
like its ability to have these period locations. It was really actually like it's funny. They call it Slow-Vanna. I don't know if anybody's ever shot there. It's like it can be a little challenging to shoot there, but it actually was like a really lovely place to live for 6 months. Because
Yeah.
you can walk to everything if you want, but everybody has cars and like it's so cute and quaint, but there's decent food and all
Yeah.
those things that you care about when you go on location.
Right. That's so cool. And so, there's also these like amazing, surrealist sequences.
Mm-hmm.
How did those kind of like how did those work within like the full production plan? Was it kind of like, okay, this week we're doing, this?
Yeah, so Julie had ideas for how she wanted to shoot all of them pretty clearly because she knew, kind of eventually what they needed to look like. But we went through several VFX companies because I mean, a lot of the two of the companies we had went under over the course of the production, weirdly. So we kind of just kept getting thrown around. But in terms of what we shot, the red sort of Wizard of Oz esque sequence. That was about a day of shooting, and Julie was very clear on that from the get go. We had
Oh, wow.
a great special effects team, and all of that. The treadmill stuff, that actually we shot in New York at the as a pickup when we did the New York stuff, because we didn't quite have that figured out. And then the knife thing, that was fast. Actually, the knife thing was really fast. What else was there? And then the bus.
The bus, yeah.
The bus. I mean, the bus was on a stage. The windows were green screened, so we shot on the bus on stage for a few days.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And then, and you also had some animation too.
Yeah, we did. We did. And Julie always knew she wanted that, but that definitely got like added with the Collie doll, but that got added at the end. And then any of the maps, same thing. That was all post work. We kind of, we knew we might want that stuff, but we figured it out in post.
Gotcha. I did want to pause and just say, for anyone who has any questions, if I'm leaving stuff out, please put your questions in the chat and we will ask them. And so, I mean, I guess, in terms of the production, it seems like, you were doing a lot the entire time. But what kind of sticks out to you as like, one of the more enjoyable parts of the process? Whether it's production or post or, pre?
I mean, for me, I actually, even though it was very, very tough, it was one of the more enjoyable movies that I've done. I really like being in one place for like a solid amount of time. You like get to settle in and like kind of have a life there, as opposed to like, a lot of the movies I do, or the movie I'm on right now, it's like, we're here for 4 weeks and it's like, no sleeping, run. And that was the Glorias, but like you were living there. So it kind of felt like home almost. It wasn't quite as jarring. But in general, for me, getting to work or watch Rodrigo Prieto work and Sandy Powell work and these department heads who, look, I love all the movies that I make, but, I did not think, I never thought at this point in my career that I would be working with those types of department heads. And it was equal parts enjoyable and equal parts challenging, because we were still on a very tight budget for what these people usually do. I mean, these people are used to $100 to $200 million budgets, and we had a fraction of that. So having to manage Sandy Powell and her costume department was not, and they were great about it, but it just like it was not the most pleasant to just be like, no, you can't have this, no, you can't have this, you can't have most of the stuff that you normally have.
Right.
But in general, it was really, I mean, making a movie about Gloria with her support and involvement throughout, and watching Julie work was just like, I honestly, like, I felt like a fangirl most of the movie, even though I was producing the movie.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. And it was also like really cool to see, just in terms of like going back to, adapting the story and deciding who to tell, like how many of the other activist stories were in here.
That was really important. And we talked about that a lot. We actually really wish that we could have given them all more time. And that became a big conversation in the edit, which was, do we focus more on these women, which, arguably would have been, and it's funny because they made their show after we made our movie, but like the more Mrs. America version, where you're seeing, most of the movie from like Alicia Vikander on, and you maybe do, 10 minutes of the childhood as opposed to 40 minutes of the childhood. But Julie was really, really adamant about showing all the childhood stuff. And I understand that, because I think that's the stuff that really nobody knew. I mean, I didn't know until I read the book and really talked to Gloria how both of her parents shaped who she was. And, her relationship with her father is the emotional through line of the book. And in a lot of ways, he's the inspiration for her emotional through line in the film, which is with all of those women. And if she hadn't been raised to believe that travel was the best education and that you should live your life on the road, she never would have met those women, and they never would have been her home and her family, basically. But yeah, no, I mean, it's funny, even in interviews now, people know Belle Abzug, people know Flo Kennedy, but like Janelle will be the first one to admit in interviews that she had no idea who Dorothy was before taking this role. And most people have no idea who Wilma Mankiller is. Yeah. And a little bit more lately, Dolores Huerta, but it's funny. I was so thrilled to be able to have them all in the movie, but at the same time, it was a little hard because it felt like we were shortchanging all of them. And we just had to kind of keep reminding ourselves that we were making Gloria's biopic. And we didn't need to make a 3.5-hour movie. So
right. Yeah, no, it totally seems hard. But at the same time, it's like when I think about what Gloria stood for and how, it was like this intersectionality was like
totally
it's like the pillar of what she.
Well, yeah, and that scene in the movie with Flo Kennedy, the press conference between, with Flo and Alicia, it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because Flo so clearly states that, and it's something that we don't hear often anymore. And it's amazing that it was such a part of the conversation in the 70s, like in that wave of feminism. And we're kind of I guess we would be the third wave now of feminism. And we don't talk about that very much. We're also differently organized than I think they were then. Not to say they weren't fractured as well, because they definitely were. But that was an interesting thing to watch and read about and then hear more about. I mean, part of what was so fun about developing the script was the research and just learning about all of all of this work that was done in the 70s, you know, I didn't know what the Houston Women's Convention was. And I was a history major with a concentration in American history. Like, you know, how did I not know about that? But you know, we you know, it's not stuff we talk about unless you're, you know, I guess a women's studies major.
Right. Yeah. That totally resonated. It just feels like there was so much work being done at that time that it's like, it's truly like a testament to like what persistence really means, you know?
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's like, it really is decades of work.
Gloria equals persistence.
Yeah, seriously. And yeah, I mean, I guess, were they, I know that some of these women are no longer with us, but was like Dorothy Pittman Hughes, like, has she seen the film? And, you know.
So, Dorothy, I don't know if she's seen the film. She's not well. She's in her 90s. Her daughters have, and they love it, and they love Janelle. Bella Abzug's daughters have seen it and love it. Has Dolores seen it? I think Dolores has seen it. I'm trying to think of who else. Flo, I don't know that we have any connection to her family. But basically, anyone that is in the movie, you know, Wilma Mankiller, Charlie Soap, the real Charlie, was at Sundance with us, Wilma's husband. So, you know, he loves the movie, is a huge supporter. The Native community in general has been really supportive of the film. But yeah, I mean, look, they're all Gloria's family, her people. So it was, you know, we talked to a lot of them before we even made the movie. And then, you know, sort of kept them abreast of things as we went.
And in terms of the, you know, just talking about their stories and the balance of stories, like how was the editorial process? Because it does seem like there was just like, it would be kind of a beast to construct this edit, you know. Did it kind of stick to the script, or did it?
We did.
You know?
That I think, you know, not that editorial wasn't long and things changed and whatnot, but we really did. There's not many scenes in their entirety, if any, that are on the edit room floor.
Wow.
So that, yeah, we really did. And, you know, it's because Julie co-wrote the script. So, you know, she's been clear on the movie she wanted to make from the get-go.
That's great. At least, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, she is nothing if not decisive.
Yeah. Which seems like you would need that for a movie like this that has
1,000%. It's, you know, even if you don't creatively agree, at least you can move forward.
Totally. So, you know, were there, what would you say was one of the more challenging aspects of the whole?
I mean, I think it was the sheer size and scope for the amount of money that we had, which you can really say about any budget, but it was particularly hard. And it was hard because we had a really high level of cast and department heads, and you know, I don't know, I guess me as a people pleaser, it was more painful to disappoint them than maybe some of the other department heads that I've worked with in the past, who, you know, all needed more money too. But this felt, you know, this is also by far the most expansive movie. I mean, it's not even comparable. Not just because of budget, but just what we shot compared to some of the other films that I've made. Nothing comes close. I think the most locations was probably close to half of what we had here. So yeah, I think that just the size and scope, and taking on, you know, the daunting pressure of taking on, you know, telling Gloria Steinem's story.
Right. Yeah.
Which is exciting. Was super exciting, but also, you know, nerve-wracking.
Yeah, for sure. Having that responsibility. We have a question in the chat from George. What is your favorite part of the process of producing, and what is your least favorite part?
I think depends on the movie, honestly. There are some movies that I love development. It's so fun. It's so because the writer director is so collaborative. And then there are other parts where editorial is really fun. I always love production. I really do. I think it's because as a producer, it's actually where I have the least amount of responsibility. I'm kind of there to problem solve and watch everybody else oversee them doing their jobs. But, prep and development are the most stressful. And then editorial is a lot of legwork. But production, it's also where you get to see everybody, kind of lose the egos a bit. You can't make a movie every day just thinking about yourself. Everybody has to be working towards the same goal. It's not to say that actors don't have egos or directors or whatever, but I think in general, it's the most like genuine team feeling of the process for me, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Michelle asks, how did you get into producing? How did you?
Yeah, so I always knew, or I mean, always, I guess since like high school, knew that I wanted to be in entertainment, and I thought I wanted to be a producer just because I knew I didn't want to be a writer or a director or any, creative department head. But when I graduated from college, I moved to LA, and my first job out of college was as an assistant to a big studio producer named Mark Gordon. And I worked for him for a little over a year, and then I went and worked for an indie producer, and working for both of them really solidified that I knew I wanted to produce. And so, eventually got here, but I was an assistant, and then I was an executive, and then I was actually a finance and packaging agent at ICM for several years. And that's how I learned how to raise money and sell movies and make investors feel comfortable and the whole thing. And it was about almost 5 years ago that I left ICM to produce.
Wow. And do you have like a partner that you usually work with? Does it depend on the project? I know with this project, there's 3 producers.
Yeah, it was Julie and Lynn and myself. No, they're all different. I don't have a producing partner. When my company was financing movies, my financing partner produced all of them with me. But no, all different. So sometimes I team up with people early on. Sometimes I get hired onto things, closer to production. It depends. I mean, I think, I like developing and packaging and getting involved, very, from the get-go. But I've also really enjoyed coming on things later in the game, surprisingly, and just, really working in prep and production if the movie's already financed.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I feel like a lot of producers that I know, I don't have one producing partner either, but I feel like everyone is always like, you have to get a partner, but it's cool that you can kind of decide per project, So another question from Timothy: Gloria is played by more than four actresses, and Steinem herself in the film. Aside from Julianne and Alicia, was the search for casting the other 2 a difficult task?
It's a good question. I wouldn't say it was all that difficult. We got a lot of submissions for the teen girl, and there really are only so many actresses in that age range who are represented by the major agencies. So we got submitted Lulu, and Julie was already a fan. So that was actually really easy. The youngest Gloria was a little tougher. We saw a lot of tape, but it wasn't. It really, honestly, once we saw her, and I think she was really in one of the first 2 batches. We were sold. So knock wood, but that actually was probably one of the easier parts of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at what point did Janelle come on? And
Janelle came on right in early prep. Like I think we were fully financed, and we were just starting. But it was fast too, because and she says it in interviews. She's like, you know, when Gloria Steinem asks you to play, you know, one of her best friends and activists in the movie about her life, you can't say no.
Right.
So, yeah, we got very lucky in that way, that's how people felt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's I love her. She's amazing.
She's amazing. So amazing.
Yeah, I mean, all the casting in the film though is just so like spot on. It feels like really, like I feel like I'm like, oh, that's them, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So I guess I did want to talk for a minute just about the release, you know, and obviously this year it's been kind of crazy. It's an understatement,
to say the very least.
Yeah. And so when did you, in terms of the release, like what were your original hopes for the film, and you know, when did you decide to shift?
Yeah, so we premiered at Sundance. We sold the movie to Liddell and Roadside Attractions, who were planning a Judy type release, which was the movie they released last year with, you know, a similar awards campaign and, you know, platform release, hopefully to wide if the movie performed, with a decent sized P&A commitment. And then the pandemic happened. And unfortunately, we really, or our distributor really waited a bit too long to give up on theatrical. And I think understandably, everyone, you know, early on in the pandemic was sort of, you know, maybe delusional about how long it was going to last. And or how uncomfortable people would be going back to movie theaters, or the fact that they wouldn't be open at all, or whatever it was. So they held on to that theatrical for quite some time, like until July. Basically, everything was kind of revolving around the Tenet release, which kept getting pushed. And then finally, they let us shop it to streamers, who could, you know, I guess technically kind of buy it from them, but not really, just like move the second window up to become the first. And that's what we did with Amazon. It was going to go to Amazon after theatrical anyway. They were their roadside second window partner. And we were able to get them to premiere the film. And it was important to us that the movie come out before the election. Like that was sort of the whole reason we made the movie in the first place. So holding out for a theatrical became way less important than just getting the movie out to Julie and all of us, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just seems like just the timing of it is just so necessary right now.
Yeah.
Another question from Michelle: with women's rights under attack, are you using the film to reignite and re-engage women, and how?
Well, look, I hope so. That was a big reason that we made it, was that so that hopefully people and organizations and groups could use it as a tool, or women could watch it and connect to it emotionally, because that's really what changes hearts and minds. But Roadside hired an activist type marketing organization called Pro Social, who's been doing outreach on behalf of the film, namely to organizations like Planned Parenthood and you know, When We All Vote, and I mean so many, truly dozens upon dozens. So the movie's been, you know, been screened for lots of their members, or it's been, you know, circulated over email and on social media to their members, to just, you know, get it out there as much as possible. But I think, look, you know, the film, people have to engage with it. You know, we made it and we can put it out there, but beyond that, unfortunately, it's I think it's a little bit of a reciprocal relationship or engagement in order to really re-engage and reignite people. So I hope, you know, I hope the ending of the movie does that for people.
Yeah. So you were saying originally, so that footage at the end is some of the was the first stuff that you is all shot, and so how was, I mean, I think it ends in such a in a really inspiring place, you know. It's like us, like we must continue.
No, totally.
But yeah, I was wondering about how much did you include and not.
I mean, it's not much, honestly. I mean, it's just that little piece, but that was always, since the 2016 election, went the way it did, that was always the creative plan to end the movie like that.
Yeah. And it's so nice to see. I mean, I think it's a threaded really beautifully throughout, like the archival footage and and just kind of transitioning to like our present moment, even though 4 years ago now. But yeah, it was just so nice to kind of just tie it to us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, I think that's the most inspiring thing about the movie is how inspiring Gloria is. She's been fighting longer than anybody, and what she has to say about the movement and her just general optimism is, I mean, it's impossible not to be inspired by it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that those are a lot of I feel like we covered a lot, but I did want to see if
they were good questions.
People had any other burning questions. Okay, from George, do you feel you have opportunities to influence the style of the film as a producer, or is it about serving the director's vision? How do those dynamics work in indie filmmaking?
I think it depends on the director. I think some, especially first-time filmmakers, you can have more influence. But I think sometimes it's just about serving the director. I mean, I work a lot with Sean Baker, and it's almost always the latter. I have no interest in influencing the style of his filmmaking. And in general, I don't have an interest in influencing the style of my filmmakers' filmmaking. If I did, I would be a director, and I have no desire to do that. But look, if I feel like the style isn't suiting the storytelling, or it's not servicing the storytelling best, or it's creating a conflicting tone, or whatever it is, then I chime in. But from a pure artistic, directorial vision standpoint, the other thing is I really, before I get on a project, I talk through this with the director. And if what they have to say about how they see the movie doesn't align with how I see the movie based on what's on the page or the idea or whatever, then we shouldn't make the movie together. Because ultimately it's going to be a lot of that. Whereas a producer and a director should be like this the whole time. You guys are on the same team. So when producer and director are fighting, something's really, really wrong.
Totally. Yeah. Definitely agree with that. George is in awe. He said he has so much wisdom.
Sweet.
Anybody else? Some questions? I haven't been in gallery view this whole time, and now I'm seeing people. Any other producer questions or non-producer questions? Oh, Kat wants to know what's next.
What's next? Well, I'm shooting a movie right now that I can't talk about, unfortunately, because we're doing it very under the radar. But it is. I'm really excited about it, and it is a real like directorial vision project. And it is hard making a movie during COVID. I will say that it is very, very hard. But you figure it out.
Yeah, lots of testing.
Lots of tests, 3 times a week. Testing 3 times a week, and it's more the the fear of someone testing positive and buying all the PPE and are we distant enough? Are we not? I mean, it's all very uncertain.
Yeah. And Michelle wants to know, do you have any dream projects?
Good question. I'm the biggest Aaron Sorkin fan, so probably a Sorkin movie, writing or directing. Or both.
Yeah. That would be great. Cool. Well, if no one has any other questions, I think we can leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Such a wonderful conversation.
It was so nice to meet everybody. I'm glad you guys watch the film, like the film. Thank you so much.
Yeah, congrats. It's wonderful. And I hope that everybody sees it and talks about it, which I know they will.
Yes, tell everyone, talk about it.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
The Glorias. It's a very important film.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye, Kat.
Bye.